everybody. How are you folks doing? Thanks for joining me. Thanks for spending a little time here. It's Tuesday, April 8th, 2025. This is part of the quick market update series on my YouTube channel. I'm Cheds Trading. You know me from Twitter at Big Cheds, of course. I do these market updates usually 3 days a week, Tuesday, Friday, Saturday. I'll skip sometimes, but you can find them all here. I've published 4 books, and my new book is out. And since my new book is out, I'm making my 3rd book free. So check out the Trading Quotes playlist. Want to get that whole thing out there for you. I really want to, most of my stuff's free, and I want to make it available to everybody. I teach professional TA, Japanese candlestick theory, classical charting, and I try to take that professional, the academic, and try to make it a little bit more simple and easier to digest. Check out the free version of my first book, my second book, watch the Masterclass tutorial. And just a reminder, of course, if you're looking for an exchange, check out BingX, my favorite exchange. Link is in the description. Now, my new book, The Trading Journal. It's Trading Wisdom Part 2. And the idea is to teach you, first of all, why you should use a trading journal, right? Every time you lose money in a trade, there's a lesson there for you. So you don't just want to keep trading and being frustrated and not making progress in your journey. So why you need to use a trading journal, how to fill it out, what goes in the trading journal, emotional management, good trader habits, sample trade setups, trade setup ideas, how those trade setups will fail, sample, a journal with like a story of I created like 15 journal entries. So there's a story of the trader and you can see what they went through. And then entries for you to fill out. All right, folks, this is available on Amazon, Kindle audio book and hardcover. We've got some reviews. Check that out. And, of course, Bitcoin Live, where I do a twice-a-week full market report every Wednesday and Sunday night with the best team in the world that studies crypto. I look at the entire market in detail. These are quick, fun updates. And I want to keep adding value to the space. That's why I do these. And this is your opportunity now. If you can hear my voice, let me know and fire out a question here in the chat. Let me know what you think. Flamin' Gaiman says, I got the Trading Journal. Great book. Thank you. Hey, Flamin', fill out a review. I need more reviews. I thrive on your feedback. So if you've read the book, thank you. Let me know what you think. Tell your friends. Leave an honest review, good, bad, and ugly. We'll look at Bitcoin. We'll do Ethereum. We'll do Solana here. Ask me a question, something you're struggling with as a trader, maybe a chart you want to look at. Add some value to the conversation. You, by being here, help add a lot of value. So I'm going to start out by just riffing on the charts a little bit. Then I'll check in with the chat room. So what is going on with Bitcoin? So the big picture, of course, is we're still dealing with the momentum from losing 90K range, right? Underside test and rollover. Now we're below the MA200, so it's an unconfirmed uptrend. And we're still in between ranges, right? And we've been pushing back towards the 72K range. You can see on the weekly time frame, the critical issue, the most important thing, the elephant in the room is the MA50, simple MA50. What's an SMA? It means simple MA. It means equally weighted. So if it's a 50, each candle's equally weighted. If it's an EMA, like I have the 8 here, the 8 EMA, it means the most recent candle has more value, okay? So we want to see that the MA50 hold on the weekly chart. That's been the case. We see what happened back in 2021 when it started to lose the MA50. And so the idea has been, how do we satisfy the need to push back and test prior support, but also hold the MA50? I'd like to see a weekly wick down and test and recovery. So we're watching to see if and when we test 72K range. If it does, we're waiting to see if it holds. And we're watching this price relationship with the MA50. All right, on the weekly chart. Weekly chart, we did a little bit of the daily chart and the 4-hour chart, which is a confirmed downtrend, price below a falling SMA 200. And with the videos here, Bitcoin Live, Twitter, we talked about the progression of the rising lows, failed higher lows, and that really nice short setup on the rejection here at 88.5. 88.5 now, based on the price response, you have a reasonable overhead level to use if you want to trigger there. Price is dribbling lower. Now we have a new lower low. What's going on? Where will Bitcoin find its footing? Are we correlated with equities? Are we not correlated with equities? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. look at the SPY or the SPX in the weekly chart, maybe see if it tags the MA50. Definitely kind of an oversold bounce here in play. We'll see if there's follow through. But, if you're going to trade Bitcoin, I think you want to do it based on what Bitcoin's doing, not necessarily based on equities. There is some correlation, yes, but you have to draw a line in the sand. You have to define your risk based on the chart in front of you, the four corners of the chart. I'll drop this down so you can see what my moving averages are. Again, of course, explained in the Masterclass tutorial playlist. So I think you still have to just focus on the chart. So yeah, we have a lot of stuff going on. I think you really still just want to focus on Bitcoin chart and not try to draw correlations to equities, to gold, to Dixie, to kind of anything else. And so I still think it's likely we do tag and test 72K range. I'm watching for price response. I don't have a low ball bid on Bitcoin because I want to see what happens if and when we tag 72K. If we can recapture 88.5, that would be an overhead level. We talked about weekly, daily, 4-hour. Ethereum just plain weak. Just plain weak. Gave you a nice short at 3,400. Strong follow through on that. It was another short play that triggered on the loss of 2,100, 2,150 range. That level needs to be recaptured to consider a long, unless, in my view, you get a strong bounce off of 1,300 range. There is support here, 1,500, but momentum is strong in the downward direction. I still remain in the camp that I think will test 1,300. Much of this is still the same, folks, in terms of what I've been saying here. I see some great questions lining up in the chat room. I'll get to them in a second. But I want to review it for people who haven't seen them. Ethereum is still weak versus Bitcoin. No sign of a bottom there. And Solana. What's going on with Solana? So we followed Solana all the way down from the 215 level, 185 level, 160 level, 120 level. Lost 120. Now we're underside 120. So you do a couple things. You can take a long and a recapture of 120. I don't necessarily recommend that. I'd be more oriented in terms of viewing this as an underside test such that I'd want to take a short. We have continued follow through on the loss of the weekly MA50. We talked about that ahead of time. And this is what we don't want to see in Bitcoin. So we'll see. I honestly have bid set for Solana right around 45. That's actually up here. So I have bid set for Solana here. I don't necessarily know that it's going to get there, but I think I'd be interested in taking a look at it there. Momentum is pushing down. I'm not a bull on Solana, divergence, whatever. I play more of a simple horizontal strategy. Retaking 120 would be a potential thesis, but I'm more likely, again, to take a short on the underside. So that's my quick overview of the market. Let's get into. I see some great questions. I'll start with the Mark. And by the way, Heiser, good to see you. Martuan, Savola, Chocolate, Flamin, Enigma, Yanez, Mohammed. Nice to see you, brother. Love from Qatar. Nice to see you. Rihan, Brahms, folks. Thank you for showing up, folks. I appreciate you. So, great question was, Cheds, do you use the same moving average strategy with stocks? Yes. Oh, yes. What's nice about classical charting, okay, which is Western TA, and my favorite book for that, I did CMT level 1, which it gives me, I think, a leg up, studying professional technical analysis, is what's nice about classical charting is you can use it on any market, any liquid market that has volatility, that has volume, that has price history. You can use it on any market, okay? And the moving averages I use, again, in the Masterclass tutorial. I'm going to record another one this year, but I use the 8 EMA, the 34 EMA short-term. Moving averages can be exponential. Longer term, the 50 and the 200 should be simple. Those are the moving averages I use. Of course, the middle Bollinger Band. I pay attention to crossing signals, but it's more so dependent on the environment. There's a lot of nuance with moving average crosses. I go into that in Trading Journal. I've tweeted out moving average basics for you many times on Twitter. I really try to put most of my stuff free. If you have a little bit of hustle and you want to learn, you can find it. It's out there for you. So yeah, I use the same strategies. Absolutely. I use the same time. I don't use a different moving average in a different time frame. It's all the same setup. Equities, crypto, Forex. It doesn't matter. Great question. All right, let's go from the top. I'm going to read some questions. And again, thank you. Folks, thank you for being here. By you showing up gives me motivation to continue on these updates. Again, part of the free market, the quick market update series. Question was XRP. All right. It looks like a bearish retest down again. Nice daily hammer doji. Well, hammer and doji are different things, first of all. Let's address that. So a hammer is a small real candle body, which is called a spinning top. A spinning top is not necessarily just a small body with an upper and lower shadow. A spinning top is any small real candle body. Could be a hammer, could be a shooting star, could be a high wave spinning top. But a hammer is a spinning top, which means a small real candle body with a lower shadow at least twice the length of the body, okay? A doji means there's no candle body. It's just flat session like right here. Okay, we have multiple doji. By the way, the plural of doji is doji. These are dojis. This is a spinning top. That's a spinning top. This is a spinning top. That's a spinning top. So a hammer cannot be a doji. A hammer and a doji are separate things. On XRP. So the question was, check out XRP as well. Looks like bearish retesting down, but nice daily hammer. I don't see a hammer in here anywhere. There is no hammer. This is what's called a high wave spinning top. We have a long upper and lower shadow with a small candle body. It's a volatility candle. It's an indecision candle. It is not a reversal candle, okay? That's a high wave spinning top. There's no hammer here. It's still holding the MA200, so it's still technically an uptrend, but momentum is dripping lower, drifting lower. I would like to see a recapture of $2. You could play this wick, which is the highest. There's a couple of schools of thought on this, and I talked about this in Bitcoin Live. And I generally want to see the $2 range hold, psychological level. There is reason to use that as your risk pivot based on the candle structure. But the highest candle volume, most recent one February 3rd, with its lower wicks, you could in theory be managing your risk based on this wick as well, and viewing all of this as price action really within the range of this shadow. That being said, for me, to simplify things, I want to see it back up above $2. So I would remain cautious if the bulls cannot regain $2. Yes, you can view it as an underside retest. You just really want to see, long and the short, you want to see XRP back up above $2. Brahms says, what's up, Chad? Well, it's Cheds, but I don't mind being called a Chad. What's up, Brahms? And Martwan, appreciate you. Legends Music Festival, what's up, man? Looking for the questions. Let's see. Chet says, when looking to short a coin in a high time frame downtrend, when it approaches a key level, previous support and provincial resistance. Yes, so that's a great question. So let me try to think of one. I know like Filecoins is a weak chart that's had a bunch of, I haven't looked at it in a while. No one's mentioned it. But for example, I know Filecoin's like a high time frame downtrend. So here is a great example of that. So here isn't daily is high time frame enough, really, weekly. But look at this price movement into resistance. Here you have a well-defined downtrend. Maybe if you can see it in the weekly. Let's go to weekly, okay? So here we have a weekly downtrend. How do I know? It's priced below a falling MA200. And you have a bounce. You have a bounce into resistance. So, foundational principle of trading. If you want to go long, you want to find an uptrend that just dipped. If you want to go short, you want to find a downtrend that just bounced. And these are foundational principles of classical charting, of trading. Of course, I talk about it in all my free work, all my masterclass videos, in my books. So yeah, you want to wait. You want to look for a move. You want to fade a move against the primary trend. Here's a great example of that, a bounce in a downtrend that you could have faded. Great question. Human Science says your TA is spot on. Thank you. I just, I get it right sometimes. I don't always nail the top and the bottom. I try to get the majority of the move. I've been risk off. I've been bullish until price lost 90K. I've been risk off since I think roughly February 25th and expecting the price to go to 72K. I've got a really good track record. It's not without its holes. I've made a lot of really bad calls because I've made a lot of calls overall, but generally I think my track record's good. I try to do my best and I own up to my mistakes, which I think is incredibly important. You can't learn. And folks, that's part of why you should use a trading journal. It's kind of looking at your mistakes. And, sorry to plug my book. It's a great book, but you're going to make mistakes. Own up to them. Talked about XRP. Yeah, Chaka, give me a review, brother. Appreciate you. Folks, give me a review if you've read my books. Let's see. So Savola says, Cheds, do you think the price action is currently driven by news or TA? Well, TA doesn't drive the price action. Trend analysis is an attempt to observe the trend, such that you can take advantage of a move against the trend. I think the price action is driven by the momentum of the support loss on a high time frame. Weekly time frame losing 90K zone roughly, right? That's what's driving the price action is momentum. It's not that TA per se is driving the price action. News somewhat for sure is driving the price action, but oftentimes news is narratives, and narratives are stories that attempt to explain the momentum. When you can really just, view the momentum, you can really just view the chart and look at price in relation to support and resistance and momentum and that type of thing. So I think that's how I would view it to answer your question. Question about MicroStrategy. It says, MicroStrategy is still above its moving averages. I think I have it on a different watch list. Let's take a look at MicroStrategy, and I'll take a look at whatever you want. It's still a nice looking chart. Look at that. It's held the daily MA200. MicroStrategy is held. Why is the daily MA200 important, first of all? Well, as I said before, if you want to go long in something, you want to be an uptrend, right? Don't mess around playing downtrends. Don't mess around guessing bottoms. That's a great way to zero out your bank account, your trading account, right? So you want to identify a trend. That's the MA200 in classical charting. I teach, of course, both classical charting and Japanese candlestick theory. I'm trained in both. But classical charting, they work well together, of course. MA200. So you want to see price above a rising MA200. That's an uptrend. And, MicroStrategy, that's held for a couple of years now, really since, for a couple of years, 2 years, since March of 2025. Repeated attempts of that price zone have held. So we're right there. Such that if price starts to close below the daily MA200 and MicroStrategy, that would be evidence of a weakening trend. We don't quite have that yet, but price is at support. You have demand established in this area. You have the confluence or the combining of the daily MA200 and price structure in this zone. So you generally have support in this area. Should we long it now? Well, there's no we. You have to make your own decision, but I would rather be a bull than a bear. I would say if I want to go long on MicroStrategy, I'd like a test of like 250. You had that yesterday, okay? I'd like a test of like 250 because you can say, well, I'm out below like 235. You've got a very good level to define your risk, right? So if price cannot hold 230, 235, you got to recheck the bull thesis. So price is near support. I'm not going to say you should go long. I'm not going to tell you where to go long. But I'd rather be a bull than a bear. So that's kind of how I would generally try to answer that question. I talked about Solana Hyzerum. My thoughts on it are generally that I'm bidding lower. A series of support level breakdowns here in Solana. You have the weekly loss at MA50, kind of suggesting that the rolling over of the high time frame trend. And, I'm viewing any price action here as underside 120, which means if it flips 120, in theory, you can take a long, but I'm more likely to take a short because it's a downtrend, because there's momentum pushing the price down. And my bids are way lower on Solana. That's just how I'm viewing it. I know other people are drawing divergence. Great. Divergence doesn't do anything for me. Really, I want to see price do something. A lot of people ask about Solana. I've covered that. So Rion says, and these are great. I want to hear your trading questions, folks. There's a good chance that when you ask me a question, other people are dealing with the same situation, and I can add value by answering it. Rion says, I struggle with placing a stop loss when I know the exchanges like to do liquidity sweeps. Screwed if you do and screwed if you don't. Well, yeah, but I'd rather get stopped out than hold all the way down. So you put in the stop loss. Couple things you can do, Rion. You can break up your entry. Let me try to think of a good example. Let's say, let's think about this. Let's say you've got a price zone that establishes a well-defined range peak, and it comes back down here. Now you're coming up and you're breaking up above, and you're taking a long here. So you can kind of, first of all, you could do. You could break up into multiple entries. So one of your stop losses can be here, one of them could be here, one of them just below. So you give yourself a little bit of room for error, number one. So that's one strategy, number one. Number two, allow yourself to try a good idea at least twice. And I talk about this in Trading Journal. I talk about it in Trading Wisdom. If your trade idea is revalidated. So let's say, again, you have this price let's do it this way. Let's say, again, you have this price zone established. You take a long and you get stopped out. If it can break up again, your trade idea has been revalidated. So allow yourself to try a good trade idea twice. What that means is you need to be scaling in. Don't be firing all your bullets initially. Don't be heavy. You have to have more nuance, more subtlety, smaller positions allowing you to add into your position, allowing you some room for error if you get stopped out. So you can break it up into multiple positions and you can allow yourself to try it more than once. And I've answered this question a million times in my Twitter Spaces. By the way, go listen to the Twitter Spaces playlist. You've got like 40, where's Twitter Spaces? Here. There's 40 videos of me from Twitter Spaces, like answering new trader questions for hours. So there's like hundreds of hours of me answering new trader questions. So if you're thirsty to learn, it's all there for you. Great questions so far. Are you using order blocks? No. I don't really look at the order blocks. And people play it wrong, right? So for example, you guys remember over the weekend, it was all the 80K. It was like, ooh, the big buyer, 80K. I talked about this. Big bids are bearish. A lot of the time it's called a prop bid, okay? This is a prop bid. This is from Trading Wisdom, right? You have the idea of a loading wall, and this is distributionary, where people put in a large bid to encourage retail to buy, but what they're doing is slowly selling on the bounces. It's a prop bid, right? And so, I mean, a lot of people use the order book, and first of all, order book can be manipulated. Order block can be manipulated. You can put in orders, move them. I really believe all you really need to do is look at the chart and use sentiment. You can use sentiment, use the chart, price versus support, looking at volume, looking at momentum. I do not use order blocks. I do not use the order book. A lot of people use it, and they use it incorrectly, okay? All right, so Setsky says, I re-entered on 74.5K Bitcoin yesterday. Is this buying against the trend, or is there logic? Well, what do you mean is there logic? It's your trade. So what was your logic? You are buying with the high time frame trend, yes. You're buying with the high time frame trend, but you have to define your risk, right? You're buying at 74K. What's your stop loss, I would ask? That's a nice buy, definitely. But how are you defining your risk? Is it going to be based on this most recent wick? I would ask you, how are you defining your risk? I think it's fine. I think it's absolutely fine to buy with the high time frame trend, but have a level that you'd say, okay, my idea failed. Like, don't buy at 74K and hold down to 50. I'm not saying it's going to 50. I'm just saying, for example, and this is a difficult situation with Bitcoin because the trend is different. On weekly, you have a strong but weakening trend. Daily chart is an unconfirmed uptrend, and 4-hour is a downtrend. So, it depends on what time frame you're managing your risk, and what time frame you're structuring your trade idea. So, think very carefully. Every time you risk money, every time you put money into play, you want to have it with a carefully defined trade idea, because you need to know when the idea fails, right? You don't want to hold all the way down. You don't want to be frustrated. You don't want to let the trade own you. You don't want to let the trade, own your sleep. Savola says, Cheds, I'm still 21. You've helped me learn. Thank you, brother. Can you give me great advice? I needed to read the trading journal from 1 to 3. Looking forward to buying that book. So I would do this. I would first watch all 18 videos of the Trading Wisdom book. This is my best-selling book. It's sold over 15,000 copies. People love it. There's unbelievable reviews, over 800 reviews. Watch that. I have tons of free I encourage you to buy my books. You don't have to. I love it. Thank you. But I have tons of free stuff. Watch my free videos. You will love Trading Wisdom. You will love this new book, The Trading Journal. It's an awesome book. This is basically a how-to guide to trade. How to fill out the journal, how to identify trade setups, when those trade setups fail. So all of the above, watch my free stuff and buy my books. Enjoy it. Give me your feedback. Let me know what you like. Let me know what you don't like. And thank you. All right, let me review here. Great questions, folks. Thank you for being here, by the way. Larry says, you're the Randy Moss of TA. That's funny. And Larry, I think you've given me other analogies in the past, if I remember correctly. I'm trying to think. You said I was the Gordon Ramsay of TA last time. That's funny. Randy Moss, man, he's got hands. I mean, he can't, you're getting older, you can't play, but I remember him playing the Vikings and the Patriots. The guy was unbelievable. So thank you. How low does hype go? Let's take a look. Problem with a chart like hype is you don't really have that much price history. And that's why I generally tend to stay away from this type of stuff. Yeah, how low does it go? It can go to 0 because there's no price history, right? You know, even this price structure here has no volume behind it. There's not a lot of history. So you were just in big trouble. You had a nice little short setup on the bounce into 1250. How low does it go? Nobody can answer that because there is no price history, which I think elucidates or illuminates or illustrates, to sound, to kind of throw a bunch of big words, the limitations of TA is you need price history. So be careful when you see quote-unquote influencers and quote-unquote KOLs and these big accounts coming out and they're doing TA and hype when this is the only price history we had, which is nothing. I think you need a good year minimum to start doing TA on a chart. Maybe I'm old school. Maybe I'm getting old. Fine. But I like to define my risk. The whole idea of using TA is to find a trend and then identify a move against the trend so you can take advantage of it. Does that make sense? I love how you teach while going over the charts. Thank you, K Elephant. I just what I do. It's just so natural. I've been trading for 20 years now. I've been teaching for 10 years plus on Twitter for free. I get better by teaching. And people helped me out when I was getting started, and I've never forgotten that. And so, yes, I'm helping you folks. It helps me too because I get better every time I teach. Honestly, doing Bitcoin Live like twice a week and never skipping a report. I haven't skipped a report in 7 years. That's helped me get really good. And to try to rise up to the level of quality content for my team, so it's not just me. Yeah, I've read the textbooks. Yeah, I went through CMT. I put in the work, but you got to put in the work is the bottom line. Let's see. Let's get a couple more good questions, and we will wrap things up. We're coming up in 30 minutes. Great room today. I'll be back on. I'll do a Friday, and I'll do Friday and Saturday. Yeah, I'll try to do Friday and Saturday this week. As I drink my coffee, Ryan says too many people trade weak altcoins with hope as a strategy when if they just looked around, they'd find an uptrend. Yes. So here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. Let's take a really weak altcoin like Arrow, okay? Really, really terrible looking chart. Some people, here's the thing. You hold it and you say, I don't want to sell because I don't want to miss the bottom. But missing the bottom is a myth because just sell on a major support breakdown. You can always jump back in when some support level has been recaptured, right? You have the idea of the 2-level filter. Okay, we had that in Bitcoin where we attempted a 2-level filter break. I'll show you what I mean, right? So for example, here on Bitcoin, you have people call it a trend line. For me, I call it a descending supply trend because you have a trend of descending supply sellers. And whether you draw it in the wick or the body doesn't matter because, again, remember, there is no line. There's only a trend. So with a 2-level filter, what you do is you look for not only a break of the descending supply trend, you look for lower high break, which we have here. 2-level filter, that's where Bitcoin was rejected. So if you take a downtrend, what you want to do is wait for a 2-level filter break. You want to wait for, this is just a nasty downtrend, but you would want to wait for a break of the trend and then a recapture of some key level. Here would be like 55 cents. So rather than holding down all the way to the bottom, if you think, oh, I don't want to miss the bottom because it's gonna go to $2 again, just wait till it recaptures a major level. Because the whole idea with TA, you want to ride the trend. So don't hold to the bottom. You're never stuck, right? You're not stuck in a trade. You're simply choosing to remain with a failed idea, okay? Wait, mark out a level that would suggest momentum's turned around and then wait for that rather than just buying on the first little green candle in a downtrend. All right, TRX is still one of the best charts. I don't know what's going on with TRX. I don't know what Justin Sun's cooking up, but it's still looking pretty good to me. I've got 25 cents. It's a pretty clear overhead level, so I definitely do like that chart. So great room today, folks. As a reminder, most of my stuff is free. I teach professional TA, Japanese candlestick theory, classical charting. I take the complex and I try to make it simple. Real question. Really good question here. Alex says, you're way too bearish. I am. What Bitcoin's going higher. Scaling in is not a bad idea. Maybe I'm bearish, but look, and they said everyone was bearish and they missed out on sub 10K BTC. Did they? Did they, Alex? Alex, I was the guy who called the 2021 top on the exact day, right? I was the guy who, when Bitcoin had a failed breakout at 46K, I said, we're going to 12K. I said that at 43K. All right. I was the original, we're going to 12K guy, not Capo. All right. And did I miss Bitcoin, sub 10K? No, I got in at 18.5 when I announced on Twitter I'm going long. Okay. So the idea here and the point I'm making is that even if someone was quote unquote waiting for 10K, that's an easy long signal. You don't have to nail the exact bottom or nail the exact top. So even if you think I'm too bearish, I can take a long. I'm already long. I've got longs from lower. But even if you think I'm too bearish and you're right and it's going 100K or whatever, you just take a long at 88.5. You don't have to. You're over anticipating, in my opinion, Alex. Right? You have to let the price guide you. So even if you think we're going to 72K, you can check that thesis if the price can recapture 88.5. You always have a way to check your thesis. You always have, and that's so important. Like with every trade, you define your stop loss is when the thesis fails. So the whole idea of, people were waiting for 10K and they were sidelined. I honestly think that's bullshit, to be honest. I mean, no offense. I think it's nonsense because all you had to do was take the clean long. Take the clean long here. Take the clean long in the throwback. Take the clean long in the breakout. You had a million ways to get long and ride the trend without having to sniff out the exact bottom. So missing, I think that's a little bit of a myth in terms of what you said. I don't completely disagree if you're talking about scaling in, but I still think you have to define the risk on your buys here because there still is a massive momentum overhang on losing 90K. And I still think it's logical and orderly and likely we go to 72K. So that's just my opinion. But it's a great comment, Alex. I appreciate you. Folks, I teach professional TA, Japanese candlestick theory, classical charting. I take the complicated, try to make it more simple. I publish 4 books. Because my new book is out, my 3rd book, I'm going to make the entire thing for free. I've started publishing it. I'll do all 52 weeks, plus the quarterly wrap-ups. I got a free version of Trading Wisdom, free version of My Battles with Cancer. This is part of the Quick Market Updates series on Bitcoin, of course. If you're looking for trading exchange, check out BingX, my favorite exchange. Links in the description, links on Twitter. And, of course, Bitcoin Live, where I do a twice-a-week full market report every Wednesday, Sunday night. But I'm going to continue to do these videos. I want to continue to put out free content. I really enjoy engaging with you folks. I do have a vacation coming up, so I'm actually going to be skipping YouTube because I'm going to be on the road for a good part of April, but I'll be back in May. But I'll be on this week, Tuesday, Friday, Saturday this week. Make sure you show up, set your calendar, and have fun. Be kind. Keep learning, keep having fun, and define your risk. Every trade idea, make sure you know where the trade idea fails. And that way you can stick around, you can learn, use the trading journal, why you should use a trading journal, sample trade setups. Check out my new book. If you've got it, let me know, give me a review. All that good stuff. Folks, thanks for hanging out with me. I really, really appreciate it. I will talk to you soon. Big Cheds out. Peace out, everybody. Stay well.